In the last video, I gave you a little bit of an introduction to GeoGebra, how you can use it to create points and lines and circles, and how moving the points around changes the figures that you've defined there. Let's take a look at some deeper features that GeoGebra has. All right, so we kind of took a look at most everything here. I should also say, feel free to play around with these, with any of the options that you see here. Nothing you do here can get you into very much trouble. You've got an undo button right here if you want to, you know, undo some of the work you did. You can click over here and clear all if you want to start over. If you created an account, you can save your file and share it with other people. I'm going to not save this. All right, and let me create a triangle here. A, B, and C. And I could have used the polygon shape to connect these points and have a kind of blue shape in there. You can play with that if you want to. Let me click on the More button down here. And this gives me a lot more options. And you can see there's an extra More button down here if you want to see even more, but this will be more than enough to play with for now. So there are a bunch of different things you can see here. The first thing I'm going to show you in this video is I'm going to show you about how to do kind of all of the transformations we were doing earlier in this year and how to do a bunch of constructions. Okay, so for instance, why don't we reflect point A across this line BC and see where that image comes up? So I'm going to click Reflect About Line, and it says select object to reflect and then the line of reflection. So I can select point A, and then here's my line of reflection. And when I click on that, it moves A prime down there like that, just completely mirrored over that axis of rotation. And you can do kind of other things. So why don't we rotate this line around this point? All right, and 45 degrees counterclockwise. That sounds fine to me. And so this is what that line looks like when you rotate it around point B by an angle of 45 degrees. Why don't we measure that? Why don't we test that? So I will draw a segment from A1 prime to B. I just want to make sure that this angle right here is 45 degrees. So what I can do is I can measure an angle, and now I want to select 3 points or 2 lines. So I can select A, and then the vertex B, and then A prime. And this tells me that that angle is 45 degrees, just like I expected it to be, because that was the rotation that we did. Okay, another thing we can do is we can do constructions. So let's say that I wanted to make the perpendicular bisector of side BC. So I'll come over here to where it says construct. I can construct midpoints or perpendicular lines, perpendicular bisectors, parallel lines, or angle bisectors. I can also construct tangents, which we'll look at more later on in the unit. So perpendicular bisector. Now I want to select 2 points or 1 segment. So I would either select points B and C, or I can select this line segment. And there is a perpendicular bisector. It's clearly perpendicular, and it sure looks like it splits this in half. And one cool thing that I can do is I can prove here that if you take the perpendicular bisectors of all 3 sides of a triangle, so let me take the perpendicular bisector of that side, and I'll take the perpendicular bisector of this side, and something interesting is going to happen. They all meet in this same point. Let me kind of highlight that point there. So that's point D. Do you think that's a coincidence, or do you think maybe that's something that happens for all triangles? Well, one thing we can do is I can go over to move, and we can start moving this triangle around. And you see that no matter what I'm doing with the different sides of the triangle, point D is moving around, but those 3 lines are always going through that same point D. Well, that's kind of a cool thing. Here's an even cooler thing. Let's create a circle with a center at D that goes through A. Oh my gosh, it also goes through B and C. And once again, no matter how I drag this around, we can see that not only do all three perpendicular bisectors go through that point D even as it moves around, but the circle with the center at D that goes through one point of the triangle goes through the other 2 points as well. That's a kind of cool thing to look at. I'm going to ask you to do the same basic ideas as this, except with some slightly different rules, and come up with cool pictures. And then I'm going to want you to take pictures of that and send it to me. I'll give you a few tips on how to do that in the next video.